let's talk about short films and creating one in the UK. So I wanted to make this video because I actually have my first ever short film out right now, so I'll put it in the description. And this is a short film I made with one of my best friends, and we've made it as part of our company. So we have a production company called Pink Salt Productions, and this is our first ever short film. So if you are interested in that, it is in the description down below. And when I talk you through how to make a short film in the UK and what I did, I will be referencing what I did to make this film, so it might be worth watching the final product to see kind of the culmination of everything that I'm going to talk about. But yes, so that's why I'm making this video. Also in terms of my credentials, I suppose, so I did a degree in drama at the University of Exeter, which obviously not to do with film, although I did do a few film modules, but this was more critiquing the theory of film, looking at film theory. I studied drama and we did not make films, but we did make plays, and I do think there is something similar in the creation of plays that is also similar to the creation of films. Definitely different, but there are some aspects that definitely overlap between the two mediums. So I did that degree, my undergrad, and then I went on to do a master's, and my master's was in filmmaking. So this is where I really learned all of the things I'm going to be showing you today, how you actually make a short film. So let's just get right into it. I do have a presentation right here on my laptop, which I will be putting on the screen so you can see it, to hopefully guide us through the process a little bit easier. But yeah, let's just get right into it. This is such an exciting topic because creating something of your own is just very, very fulfilling, rewarding and fun. So I hope this video can help you create what you want to create, hopefully. So first things first of how you will be making your short film is you need an idea, you need a concept, you need an idea of the plot of what's going to happen in your short film. As you can see from my presentation, our film is called Find You Well, and we did have an idea. It says working title because that was the working title, but that did actually end up becoming the final title as well. But yes, so you need an idea, you need a concept for your short film. What's the genre going to be? What's going to be the plot? All of these things. You need a story, you need an idea. That is what you first need, and that is something that unfortunately I can't really help you with. That's something that you need to come up with and decide for yourself, but hopefully you're at the point where you already have an idea. Now just bear in mind, this presentation was actually made by me for the people I was making the short film with, so that's why it kind of has this vibe of steps we need to take. It's because it was made for them. I'm just repurposing it for this. But here is a list of the essential kind of steps that you need to take, which I will go over now, but we will go into more depth for each step as well, so don't worry. First of all, we have to write the script, of course, that definitely needs to happen. We then have to write a step outline, create a mood board. I've put a little tick there because at that point we'd obviously done a mood board. Create a storyboard, write a log line and synopsis, compile a treatment, create a shot list, cast a short, find location, and create a kit, props and costume list, source kit, props and costume, finalise the shoot dates, create a shooting schedule, create a call sheet, and then I said have fun. Now do not worry if any of that sounds alien to you, we will be going into each step individually. So as I said, step one is to write the script. So that entails taking your idea and turning it into the actual script document that will be used by your cast and crew in order to make this film. So I've just put here, you want to make sure you're using the kind of correct script conventions, just the generic correct ones. You don't need to be extremely strict with yourself, especially if you are just making this film as an amateur. You really don't need to be that strict, but I just showed this example here. This script example is not Find You Well, it is actually a different one that I did for my master's. But I just showed a few examples of the conventions here. So the example of, you have to do a slug line at the top of the script which says whether the scene is exterior, interior, where it is, whether it's the day and what time it is, and then you kind of give a description and then what it looks like when someone speaks. And the dialogue that I have here actually says in brackets VO, that means voiceover, so that's just another convention to show the type of speech that it's going to be for your cast and crew. But yeah, just follow the generic script conventions. It's really not that hard. I think people make it seem like it is, but it's really not. And if you download software that helps you write a script, they tend to have the conventions embedded themselves, so it can help you. I personally used software Trelby because it was free, and that's what I've always used, and it works perfectly well for me. Next up, you want to be making a step outline. Now, a step outline is not too dissimilar from the script, but essentially, to really break it down, a step outline is just taking every slug line that you have in your script and then giving a short description of what happens in that scene. But as I've written here, the step outline is the scene-by-scene, step-by-step account of what happens in the story. Like a textual storyboard, the step outline presents the narrative in its entirety without actually being the narrative. It is a complete report of the story in the present tense that describes every plot event. So this is just another document that you can give to your cast and crew in order to help their understanding of your vision, essentially. And in my personal masters, we always did step outlines after our scripts. Next up, you want to make a mood board, and this is probably one of my favourite steps because I just find it so fun. It's very creatively fulfilling, and essentially a mood board are used to visually organise ideas and create a cohesive aesthetic for a film. So a mood board is essentially a collection of pictures that depict the mood of your film. That is it boiled down. Here is the mood board that we did for my new short film that's come out, Finds You Well. Because the plot of my film it was a period drama romance that was going to be shot in nature outside. So we really wanted the vibe of, obviously, period drama, 17th century. We wanted a lot of greens, a lot of whites, stuff like that. And yes, this is the mood boards. That is the next step you want to do. Again, this is just a document that gives you creative vision, essentially, and it lets you put it onto paper, essentially, what you are seeing in your head when you think about this film that you want to make. Next up, you want to write a storyboard or draw a storyboard. So a storyboard is a graphic representation of how your video will unfold shot by shot. So essentially you are drawing every shot of your film, every shot that you want to collect, and this is just very useful for when you are actually filming, because then you can make sure you get every single shot that you want and that you don't miss anything out. Then when you get to editing, you realise, oh, I didn't get a shot of her face when I wanted that. And yeah, that's just an example here of Lion King, of a storyboard. I will not show any of my storyboards because I'm not an artist and they always look terrible, but I do always still do them just as a nice visual representation of the shots that we do want to get. But yeah, my storyboards, I use stick figures, which is okay, you can do that. As long as you know what is happening in the storyboard, then it's generally fine. Next up, you need to come up with your logline and your synopsis. So a logline is just one or two clear, concise sentences that should swiftly convey what a screenplay is about, including the main character, central conflict, setup, and antagonist. So I can't remember what the actual logline we used was, but if I was to just come up with one off the top of my head, it would be something like a 17th century romance between Sage and Marnie, and the girls reacting when they are suddenly ripped apart. Something like that. So just a sentence that encapsulates what happens in your film and kind of the intrigue that's there as well. Then a synopsis. A film synopsis is typically a one-page document that summarizes your film. It contains the film's title, genre, logline, and a 5-paragraph explanation of the film's storyline, major plot points, and key characters. So a synopsis is essentially just detailing a lot of the work you've already done. So a synopsis is essentially writing out your film and kind of writing out the script, but in a more book form, so in a more novel form, in a novel way, not in the whole script convention. So you can see my example here, which is an example of a film I did on my masters. It is not Finds You Well, but as you can see, starts, we open on Elliot's mouth, an extreme close-up. He says, "I'm sorry, it's over," and leaves the frame. We are left zoomed in on the wall that was behind him, out of focus. We then cut to a home video of our main characters, Elliot and Laws. We see them young and laughing. Intercut the video also pictures of the two of them when they were younger. So hopefully that gives you an idea. It's essentially explaining what is happening in your film, but in a more, as I said, in the normal writing we're used to, not in a script convention, which actually a script is quite bare of description. So this is essentially where you're putting all of that descriptive language in there. Next up, we have the treatment. Now, a treatment is a document that presents the story idea of your film, often written in present tense in a narrative-like prose, and highlighting the most important information about your film, including title, logline, story summary, and character descriptions. So the treatment is essentially your master document that is bringing together all the work we have just done aside from the visual stuff like mood boards and storyboards. So yeah, your treatment, you want to have your log line, you want to have your characters, you want to have your synopsis and all the stuff like that. And the treatment is generally the document you would give out to your cast and crew, so you wouldn't necessarily give them a document that just had the log line or one that just had the synopsis or whatever. You'd put them all together in a treatment. So the treatment is the document that you would distribute. So next up we would make our shot list. So a shot list is a numbered list of every shot in the film, including details of what type of shot it is. So this does quite go hand in hand with the storyboard, I would say. But yes, a shot list is exactly what it says. So as you can see in my example, which is very messy and has a lot of @ signs, I kind of do my own coding, so ignore that for the random things that are there. But you essentially say what the location is, what scene it is, so scene 3 picnic, and then you're going to list out every single shot that you want to get in that location, and you list out what type of shot you want it to be. So as you can see, scene 3 picnic, number 1, I've put MS, Laws and Elliot sat on the picnic blanket eating and laughing. And as you can see, my key, MS, is a mid shot, so you want to kind of explain exactly what the shot is, what you're trying to get. You want to list out every single shot that you aim to get, because then what I do is then when I go to film, I'll take this with me and I'll simply tick off every single shot. And it's just a way to ensure that you are getting exactly what you need, and a way for, if you are working with crew, like if you are working with a camera operator or a cinematographer, they know exactly what they need to deliver as well. So just very, very valuable document. Next up, you need to cast your short, which is also a very exciting experience. So you need to cast your short, so you can do this however you want. Maybe you already had a cast in mind, maybe you already know some actors. You can do this in many, many ways. You could use Facebook, you could use Facebook groups. That's personally one of the things we did. We looked at Facebook groups of actors in our area and then posted our casting call, which we will get to the casting call later. But yes, and when you cast, you will need a character description and an audition extract. So you need a character description and kind of also a film description, so people know what they are kind of signing up for, they know what film they are auditioning for. And then you will need an audition extract. Once you get people contacting you saying, hey, can I audition, you need something to give them for them to audition with. Or you could go the route of, oh, you bring your own material to audition with, but I always personally like to use the film's material, because then you're getting a real proper look of how they would deliver your work, essentially. I've put the logo for Mandy here because Mandy is a website, a casting website where you can post casting calls and where you can get cast, that I have used in the past, and it was good. So I would recommend using Mandy as well. You can post on there, I'm pretty sure, for free, post a casting call and get actors around the UK to audition for you, essentially. Another thing on the auditioning is I've always done auditioning over Zoom, just because of locations. You could do auditioning in person if they are local to you, but yes, I've always done my auditionings over Zoom, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think you can absolutely cast and audition your film online if you don't have the resources to do it in person, so don't worry about that if that is the case for you. Next up, we have your locations. You need to decide your location where you are going to film. There could be multiple locations where you're going to film if you need them for whatever your short is. So I just put check if there are any permits needed and work out the logistics. So let's say, you know, right, I'm doing this film and I'm going to film in a park, like it says here, for example, scene 2 park. You need to figure out if you can film there freely, essentially. That's what I mean by asking for permissions. So for example, for the film that we've just brought out, we wanted to film on Weston-super-Mare Beach. So we had to research that. Are we allowed to just do that? What are the rules? And it turns out to film on Weston-super-Mare Beach, you need a permit and you need insurance, which we got, and it sounded scary and daunting when we heard that we had to do that, but it was actually very easy to acquire. And we were pretty much alone on this beach the whole time. No one checked. We could have easily done it without insurance and without a permit, but because we are creating this production company, we want to do everything right and we want to do everything properly, because if something did happen, you're then covered. So I would always recommend doing it, at least checking. Yeah, so the certain ways that you can find out this stuff is simply googling it, and also I think finding out which local council, if it's a public space, which local council governs that area, and then usually they will have a film or filming section of their council, contact them, find out what you need to do, all of that stuff. That's what we did, found out what we needed to do. We got the permission, it was emailed to us, and we printed it out to take with us in case questioned. And we bought some insurance, so we bought 1 day liability insurance, I think it was, and that was, I think it was around £60, which was okay for us to warrant being able to shoot in this location. And these little example mood boards that I have here, these are just something that I made to kind of give myself visuals of kind of the scenes. This was for a short that had a lot of different scenes and locations. You don't have to do that, but by all means, if you want to, you absolutely can. If you want to, if you think, right, we're going to shoot in a house and I want to make a mood board of what the house looks like, by all means do it. If it's going to help you in your creative process, definitely go for it. Next, you need to write a kit and prop list, because when you film, you will need kit. Even if you only need a camera, that's still kit. So yeah, write a kit and prop list. Props are the stuff that you need for the short. So maybe in your first scene, you have someone walking in the park with an umbrella. The umbrella is a prop. You need to get that, you need to source that, you need to make sure that you have it ready for when you film. And any other props that you need throughout your whole short. So what I would do for this, for the props, is read the script and essentially highlight anytime there's a prop, and then write it down, add it to my prop list. For the kit, I would go to the shot list and write down anything I would need. So I'd look at my shot list and say, right, I need a camera, I need a microphone to record when they speak to each other for the audio scene. I need this type of lens, I need this lens, I need a clapperboard because I'm doing a short film and I want to use a clapperboard. You don't have to use a clapperboard. We did. Clapperboards are used to sync up sound and audio generally, but they also tell you on the clip what scene this is. You can quickly see what scene, what take this is, so they're useful for that. And we did use one. You can purchase these quite cheaply online. And yeah, just make a list of the kit you will need. I think if you were going bare minimum for your short film, if you really have like no budget, what you really need is a camera, a tripod, and perhaps a microphone. And that's kind of like the barest budget that you need. If there is no audio in your film, you might not need a microphone, and you could split that out for a light maybe. But yes, those are like the bare things I would suggest that you need when filming a short film. Just on the logistics of the location, why I say you need to work out logistics is, say if you decide you want to film on a beach like we did, you need to work out logistics in terms of, okay, how are we getting there? How are we getting the actors there? How are we getting our crew there? What are we bringing with us? What do we need? Do we need to bring camp chairs for the actors to sit on so they can sit somewhere without getting their costumes dirty? When are they going to get into their costumes? Where are they going to get into their costumes? Where can we go to the toilet? All of these things you do need to consider beforehand, and I recommend considering this beforehand, just so then you get to the day and everything is completely planned. You know everything. You know where the nearest toilet is. You know how long you're going to be here. You know what the weather forecast is. You know how you're getting up this hill with all your camera equipment. You know it all. This massively takes off the stress, so you can spend the day focusing on getting the shots that you need. Next up, you need to decide the shoot dates. So you need to decide exactly when you are going to shoot, and this involves, in my experience, it's involved a lot of arranging, especially with people with busy lives, because I've always made films with people who it's not their main occupation, so they do have a lot of other things going on and making films with students and stuff. So it's just a lot of arranging, making sure all your schedules meet up. So when are you free? When is the crew free? When are the actors free? When is the actor free? When am I free? And just meshing it all together and making sure that your shoot days are okay for everyone. You can also have shoot days where some people aren't there. So for example, if you maybe have 3 characters in your short film but one isn't in that many scenes, you could have one day where that 3rd character who's not in many scenes is not present because they can't make it, but you do all the scenes with the first 2 actors. You can do stuff like that to help you. You need to decide when your shoot dates are, but you need to also decide how many shoot dates you think you will need. So estimate how many do you think you're going to need to get all the shots that you need. How many locations do you have? Do you want to do 1 location per shoot day? How many hours do you want to go on for? For this, I would say always give yourself a buffer, always give yourself more time than you think you'll need, because then this just allows for anything to go wrong. So tell your actors, we're going to start at 8 and we're going to finish at 5. Even if you think we should be finished by 2, tell them 5, because then at the end of the day, all that's going to happen if you do finish at 2 just means they're happy because they get to go home early. So yeah, just communicate this to our actors. Say, I'm going to say finishing at 5, but it could be earlier. Always give yourself a buffer, I would say, I think is probably the best practice, because it's better to have too much time than to get to 5 and you haven't done everything, or to get to 2 because you thought I could get it done by 2 and you haven't done anything and your actor is left. So yeah, I'd say always give yourself a buffer when deciding how many shoot days am I going to need and how long are we going to do these days. When we did our film, personally, we did 3 shoot days. So I did the first one with me and one of the actors, so just us and 1 crew. Second day was kind of like the big day. We went to the beach, so that was me, 2 actors, and we had 2 crew at the beach. Then we came home and we actually recorded a voiceover. Then that was the end of the day. Third shoot day, we recorded kind of the location was literally right by my house, so my house was kind of the base where we had our dressing room and everything and getting the hair and the makeup done. And the third day was literally shooting everything. That was 5 minutes from my house. So that's what we did. We did 3 shoot days, and that worked very well for us. And we did have time at the end to do a little photo shoot as well. So that worked well for us. Okay, now we are still on pre-production, but we're bordering a little bit into getting closer to when you're going to film your short. So next up, you need to make a shooting schedule. Now, a shooting schedule is one of the documents that you will have with you when you shoot your film. So when I went out on my shoots, I bought a little clipboard, a pink one of course, and on it I had all these documents that I printed that I would need during that time, so I'm going to show you them. And the shooting schedule was one of them. So this is an example of one of our shooting schedules that we had. So it says the name of our shoot, Finds You Well, shooting schedule day 2. So on your shooting schedule, as you can kind of see from my example, you kind of want to put what day of the shoot it is, and you want to put, we're going to do this scene and these are all the shots that we're getting for this scene. Then we're going to move on to this scene and these are the shots we're going to get from this scene. So that is the info that's kind of in a shooting schedule, and it says shooting schedule outlines what scenes will be shot for each shooting day of the production. And you need one for each shoot day. So you need shooting schedule day 1, shooting schedule day 2, shooting schedule day 3, whatever you need, however long your schedule is. So as you can see on my example, I put the title of our production, shooting schedule day 1, and I just titled this, it wasn't a scene, so I just put day extras camcorder because it was like loads of little bits. So you do the number, so that's the number of the shot that you're doing, how many shots you're going to try and do. Size was the size of the shot, so the camera frame, so is it a mid shot, is it a long shot, all of that stuff. Movement was if any of the characters move, is the camera going to move? So that's that kind of knowledge. So are you going to have it on a tripod and it just stands still, or does it need to be on a tripod that can be moved? Is it going to be handheld? That type of stuff. And the description just describes exactly what is going to happen in the shot essentially, and you do this for every scene that you're going to do for that day. And actually in the one that we did for our short film that's coming out, that is not in this example one, I did another column that was titled tick, and essentially tick it when it's done, and I just found that very useful for the day, because then I could just tick it and know, right, we've done all the scenes, we've done all the shots for scene 5, done, moving on to the next one. So that was really helpful, so I would maybe advise adding something like that. Next up, you want a call sheet. So this is another document that you will be taking with you on your shoots, and this document is particularly important for your cast and crew, that is distributed to them, whether you send it on WhatsApp or you email it to them, or maybe you have a Facebook group and you put it on there. Whatever, it's good to distribute it to them the day before, or possibly a few days before, depending on what your schedule is. So it says a call sheet is a document that includes all the info for the day, including what time people should arrive, shooting schedule, and lunchtime. So I'll show you my example. So this is the call sheet that I had when I actually did my shoot, and as I said, a call sheet, you want it to have all the info. So we have the title of the short that we are doing, it says it's a call sheet, shoot day, whatever of whatever. So this says shoot day 2 of 4. We didn't actually do 4 shoot days, so I don't know why that says 4, but anyway. Then we have all the info, so we have mobiles. So you have the mobile numbers of people that you made contact. So we put the mobile number of me as the director, we put the mobile number of our second director, and we put the mobile number of our runner, just so it's on there so that if anything happens, you can call them. We then put the date, we then put cast and crew call times. This is essentially the time that they need to be on set. We did it as 9:30. a.m. on set. You then put the location, where is it going to be? We put beachfront, Weston-super-Mare, parking, so usually you could put parking where the nearest place to park is if they're travelling by car. And there's another section called transport, so I just put for this, it is a 44-minute walk from Weston-super-Mare train station, because it was. And then hospital, you always want to put the closest hospital to the location, just in case. Essentially the call sheet is to give everyone the info they need, but it's also to look at if something goes wrong and you're like, I need their number, I need a hospital, I need to know where the car park is. It should all be on the call sheet for them. So we just put, this is the nearest hospital, and we put the number to the hospital. So if you needed to call them, you could very easily. Then there's the schedule, what you're going to be doing that day, and we do times. So roughly the times, this is when you want to think about, when we were thinking back to how many shoot days you're going to need, this is when you think about, right, we're starting at 9:30, we're going to get ready, like get costumed and makeup at 10, we start. Then we go from 10 to 11, we're doing scene 1. You're giving yourself the time you think it's going to take to film these scenes. But as I said, I would always leave a buffer, leave a buffer to give yourself more time, but also things for like changing over the equipment from the crew, people going to the toilet, people needing breaks, stuff like that. And then next to schedule, there's another column that says D/N, that is day or night when you shoot it. For example here, a lot of them say NA, and that's because it's inside, so it kind of doesn't matter, but you can also put if it does matter. Yes, a day or night. And then cast, you put which cast members are going to be in that scene, so that they know which ones they need to be ready for, essentially. Then under this you have the column of your cast, so you give your cast a number. So because we only had 2 cast members, you had ID, it says, so you had ID 1, ID 2, so you know that Manon was cast member 1 and Sydney was cast member 2. So then it says cast, you put their full name. Act, that means who they're going to play, so I just put the lead for both of them because they're both the lead. Their phone numbers in case they need to be contacted, their emails in case they need to be contacted, and then it says on set how long they're going to be on set for. So for that day, for us, we said 9:30 until 4 was the time they were on set. So hopefully that makes sense for what a call sheet is and all the info that kind of goes on there. Something I didn't say because it's not on this one but is on my example here is you can also put when lunch is going to be. So for here I put the crew call time was 2:30 and lunch is at 1:30 to 2:30. If that's confusing you, like the crew were getting there before lunch, after lunch, not going to get lunch, is because it wasn't for them. The lunchtime was for the cast. The crew get there at 2:30, so you kind of expect it's 2:30, you should have eaten, like, you know, you're getting on set, and they had when this was actually put into practice. And also on this one I put a crew call time and a cast call time because they were obviously different. Cast getting there significantly earlier, so if that is the case for you, you put that, or if it's the other way around, crew getting there earlier, you put that. Something I did want to say about before you do your shoots, so that's we've kind of come to the end of pre-production now, which is when you actually get to shoot, which is crazy. But something I did want to say is something you might want to consider is rehearsals. So rehearsals with your actors, rehearsing in a space or rehearsing on Zoom. I've done Zoom rehearsals before just because of resources that we had, that was all we could do, but you could rehearse in a space, just really whatever you think is needed to make sure the actors give the best performance on the day, to make sure they feel comfortable, to make sure they really feel like they know the characters they're playing. Essentially, you will just want to work with your actors and talk to them and hear them out and essentially ask, what do you need? What do you need? Do you need a session with me on Zoom going through a character? Do you need to meet up in person with me and the cast? And just listen to actors. But obviously resources do limit people sometimes, so just be open and communicate with the actors to say, if they say, oh, I want us all to meet up and rehearse in person, say that's feasibly not possible for me, unfortunately. I'd love to do that, but I could offer you a Zoom with everyone instead, just because it's not possible to get everyone together for whatever reason that may be, if that is the case. So I just wanted to mention that. Now we are on to kind of shooting, and then we'll go on to post-production, and this is where my presentation ends, because as I said, this was a presentation I was making for my colleagues essentially, and it was all about pre-production. So we didn't get to post-production, but don't worry, I've got it all in here so I can still tell you everything. But one more thing I want to say before we move on to the actual shoot and everything. Obviously I mentioned that you might need permissions, you might need insurance. That's something that you're going to have to research and find out and get if you need. Another thing that you might need when getting permission, or one thing you might just want to have for your own peace of mind, is a risk assessment. So this is my risk assessment that we brought with us on our shoot day. And a risk assessment is essentially, what it says is assessing the risks. So let's say you're filming at a beach, all you need to do is list down every single risk that there could be having people on the beach, and then you write down measures that you're going to put in place to lower that risk. That is essentially it, the bare bones of what risk assessment is. That is it. So just to give you some examples, this was for filming at the beach. So I put a possible hazard, a risk, tripping over a camera tripod, and I put the risk control measure in place was making sure everyone had an awareness of where the tripod is placed and making sure that care is taken when walking by the tripod and its legs. Now this might seem very silly, but like this is just the things you have to do. You kind of have to nitpick and imagine, right, if my cast and crew were like babies, and like, because people are usually not going to trip over your camera tripod, they're going to see it and they're not going to do that. You kind of have to think, what if they did though? You just have to think stuff like that just to cover yourself. I then put another hazard was slipping due to the rain, because we did have rain scheduled, sadly, the weather for our day. So I put the measure in place for that was to make sure everyone had awareness of the change in weather conditions, which obviously they would feel the rain, but you do just have to spell it out, because that's just what you have to do in a risk assessment. A risk assessment is essentially dumbing everything down, is what I find. And so they're aware of the changing weather conditions, given advice to take care when walking. So just, it's really, really simple. And then sometimes you might have bigger risks. So a beach bigger risk, I suppose, that wasn't really that big of a risk, was sand being blown into eyes by the wind. That is possible, and also not anyone's fault, obviously. It's not from people being careless. So as a measure for that, we put checking the wind levels on the day, and in case of strong winds, taking necessary precautions, i.e. bring sunglasses, water, tissues, eye drops and umbrellas, so stuff to shield your eyes. But there could be bigger risks. For example, if maybe you're using, I don't know, using a prop that could be dangerous, that's something that could be an actual risk, and you do need to write all that out and make sure everyone's aware and make that very safe. Or if you're using anything like fire or anything, there are real risks there. So just make sure that you are doing a risk assessment to, make sure that you are taking care of your cast and crew, because they are helping you to create your thing. The least you can do is take care of them and make them feel safe on set. Now, one more thing before we move on to shooting and post-production is, one other thing that you may want as well is a actors release form. This is essentially a form that you're going to get your actors to sign that essentially says, I can use your likeness, I can use these clips that I've taken of you for my film, for my promotional material, for my social media, whatever you want to use them for. I would just say it's worth getting a signature like this, because this has never happened to me, but I think it can happen where maybe you shoot and then they're like, actually I don't want you to use me anymore, and you've done all this work and you've really done the work. You don't want to be in that position, so you just want to get them to agree to it, that you will let me use your likeness. And I think most people would agree and would be very happy to agree, and I don't think many actors would suddenly be like, you can't use me after shooting the thing and doing all the work. I don't think many would say that, but yeah, it's just a good form to have and to do before you start shooting. Something I forgot to say was the casting call. So when you post on Facebook or Mandy, you need to create a casting call. I'll show, this is an example of one of mine. And essentially the casting call, you just kind of want to say a little bit about your film and a little bit about the characters that you're looking to have fulfilled. You could add your mood board, you could add a picture from your mood board, which is what I did. I added a picture, and wait for people to contact you. Essentially, you want to kind of make it, you want to entice them as well, because you probably will get actors. Like, I don't think there'll be any problem with that, but you want to get good actors and you want people to think that sounds like an interesting project. So you want it to make it sound interesting. You don't want to make it sound boring, because then you might not get anyone, although I think that's very unlikely. Yeah, so as I said, we posted on a Facebook group and we had so many women reaching out, because our film is, the two characters are just women. it's all women in our film. We had so many talented, amazing women reaching out to us, and it was actually really hard to whittle them down. So yeah, you just wait for them to come to you after posting the casting call. Next thing, there's also, similar to a casting call, you also want to make a crew call if it's what you require. So are you going to have a crew? Is it going to be just you? Which, very fair if it's like an amateur project, like absolutely it can be just you. I've done things just me, so do not worry about that. You can do things just you. Or do you want a crew? Do you have friends who are going to be your crew? Do you need to find crew? What is it? If you need to find crew call, similar to the casting call, you write a bit about your project, about why it's great and why they should want to join, and then you say who you need. So do you need a camera operator? Do you need a cinematographer? Do you need a gaffer? Do you need a focus puller? Who do you need? And you write that, and then wait for people to hopefully apply to be part of your crew. You also need to work out, is it going to be paid or unpaid, depending on your budget. If it is going to be unpaid, you will probably want to give some type of compensation, or else you probably won't get anyone. So it's like compensation that you're paying for their transport. Are you paying for their food and their lunch? Are you give them the copy of this so they can then take it as their portfolio and say, I did the camera work on this, look how amazing it is. What is the incentive? There needs to be an incentive to be fair and kind to people, and people who have these skills that we need, but also you're not going to get anyone to apply if you're like unpaid, I'm not buying your lunch, I'm not doing your travel, you don't get a copy of the project, but I need you to be a camera operator. I don't know many people who agree to that unless they're friends or family. So yeah, you need a crew call if getting crew is something that you want to do. If you need to, yeah, outsource crew, you don't already know them, you don't already have them. Now we move on to shooting. It's the first morning of the first shoot day. You have all the things you need. You have your call sheet, you have your shooting schedule, you have your risk assessments, you have your scripts for your actors, all of that stuff. And there isn't too much I can say about this. I think people do their own shoots in their own ways. I would say shoot etiquette is making sure you have some stuff for your cast and crew, so maybe buying some water, maybe buying some snacks, depending on your budget of course, although you can literally go to Aldi and get like a big thing of water for like £1 or something, so if you don't have to splurge or anything. But I'd say that's just some etiquette, making sure they have a private place to change if they are going to be changing, just being organised in general. So if you know you're going to be doing their makeup, having it all set out when they arrive and not them arriving and then you having to be like, oh my god, I need to go get everything. Just simple things like that, and essentially just trying to also cultivate a nice vibe. You want this to be hopefully not that stressful and a nice vibe for all your cast and crew. So being friendly, being polite, making people feel comfortable, especially if this is the first time you've met these people, if it's the first time these actors are working together, you really do want to make them all feel very comfortable with each other, and hopefully they will. And yeah, the only advice I can really say is try and be organised, give yourself extra time, and be kind, and good luck as well. And make sure you take breaks as well, and give your crew and cast breaks as well. Definitely important. But yeah, as I said, I think shooting, people do it in different ways. How I personally do it is try and be as organised as possible, and yeah, just make sure everyone knows what we're doing. If we're doing scene 1 in the park, I'd be like, right guys, we've got an hour for costume makeup, let's get done. We're going to get to the park, we're going to set up, and then we're going to do this. Once they're ready, we'd all go to the park, we'd set up, and we'd begin rolling, essentially. Okay, now we're on to the post-production. So you've done your shoot, it went really well, you've got all your shots, and essentially the post-production is creating your film. So it's editing it, it's colour grading it, it's adding in sound effects if you need to, it's sound mixing if you need to do that. I again think this is a very personal process as well, so I can't really tell you step by step exactly what to do, but what I would say is, what I would usually do is I'd get all my clips, I would segment them, actually first back them up, learn that from my masters, back them up so you have a copy, maybe on a hard drive or something, have a second copy of everything just in case. After you've done that, segment them, so I'd probably divide them into scenes, maybe in scenes I'd divide them into clips, whatever way works for you, divide them all up, and then start editing scene by scene, and you can do it any order you want. You don't have to do scene 1 first, you can do whatever scene you want first. Yeah, start editing them. So let's say you're doing scene 1 where they're in a house, get all those clips, possibly watch them all, think if you did multiple takes that is of one shot. Maybe you think, oh, take 1 was the best, I'm going to use take 1. So you import take 1 into your editing software, you cut out the bit where you do the clapper, you cut out if there's any other bits that went wrong or whatever, and then maybe you need shot 2, so then you get into shot 2, you overlap them, you switch between them, you create your first scene essentially. Yeah, it's hard to say because you really can't guide someone in the process unless you know exactly what their project is, I would say. But yes, you want to edit all the clips. You then want to get your sound, make sure your sound is good if you are having dialogue, get your sound effects if you're having sound effects, get your music if you're having music. Again, with music you've got to look into all the copyright and all of that, especially if you want to post it to YouTube or if you want to post it to social media or whatever you want to use it for. Just make sure the music is allowed for what you want to use it for essentially. And yes, you want to sort out your sound, and then you also want to color grade. So essentially color grading is just changing the colors in your shot. So let's say you did your shot, it's a really nice shot, but you're like, oh, it needs to be more green because maybe they're sat in the grass in the shot and you're like, I need it to be more green, I need the sky to be bluer, or maybe you need to lower the exposure because maybe it was too high. You can then color grade and change all of this and make it look better, and then would take the scenes that you've done, put them together to be making your film, and then you want to add things like your title and your credits, where you would credit yourself, credit your cast, credit your crew, all of that, if that's how you want your short film to be. There are essentially no rules, so you can edit it however you want because it is your short film, it is your creation. So yes, that's kind of all I can really say about editing, I think. Just because it is a personal journey, it is a personal thing. People do it in different ways, so I can't tell you exactly how to do it. As I said, if I don't know your project, I can't tell you how to do it, unfortunately. But yes, that's what I do for the editing process. And before we move on, I'll just recommend some softwares that I use. You can really use anything, like you seriously can. You can use whatever you want. Don't let people tell you can't. You can use whatever you want. This is just personally what I use. So to edit, I used Adobe Premiere Pro just because I do, that's what I always have. If I wanted to add effects, I would use After Effects, although I don't tend to really add effects because that's just not the type of things that I really make. Then for color grading, I would use DaVinci. Now DaVinci is also a video editor, which I've never used, but the color grading is really good because it offers quite good color grading and it's free, I'm pretty sure. It's free, so that is a really good option for color grading. I think Premiere Pro might offer some color grading, but I personally have never used it. I've used DaVinci because I was taught in DaVinci. And then for sound, you could use GarageBand if you want free, and then there's also, I think it's called Logic. That's what we used in our masters. I'm not sure if that's free, I'd think it probably isn't, but that is a good software from what I've heard. Yeah, and then as for credits, you could just use font that is in whatever video editor you're using. So for example, in Premiere Pro, you can add text and they have their own catalogue of fonts, or maybe you could do something like Photoshop to create it and then make it transparent, add it over your film as an overlay, or you could do something like Canva. Really, the possibilities are pretty endless for that. But yeah, those are the softwares that I recommend personally. So now your film is fully edited, it is fully done, finished, you want to release it. So again, this is essentially you release it exactly how you want to, but I'll tell you how we released ours in case you're curious, just to give you ideas maybe. So we released ours on YouTube, uploaded to YouTube, as you know, it's in the description. We made a trailer before the release, which got released like a week and a day before the film came out. So we made a trailer, which was just a really fun thing to do. I just really wanted to do that. And we also did a photo shoot after our shoot, which I would recommend if that's the type of content that you want. So we had pictures, so we posted pictures before the film came out to kind of be like 1 day until the film came out, 2 days until the film came out, all of that stuff. We filmed behind the scenes stuff on our phones, so we could make TikToks of behind the scenes of our films before it came out. We made posters, so promotional material for our film from the Photoshop that we got. We took screen grabs of our film and posted those on social media to be like, look at these beautiful shots that we got in our film. And yeah, and then we just posted the film and shared it to our social medias. So we essentially wanted to post the film anywhere that would allow us to, that we personally have as a social media, and share it anywhere. So our social medias that we have are YouTube, Insta, LinkedIn, Facebook and TikTok. I will link all of them below so you can see all of them and see exactly what I'm talking about, the post that we did. And yeah, and then you release it, and really what you do with it is up to you. We did a little screening, so I did a little small screening for family and friends and also crew at my house. So a little screening where we projected the film, we had a cake, we had snacks, we had Bucks Fizz, and I printed out posters of the films as well. So yeah, just a little nice thing that you obviously do not have to do that, but we just wanted to just mark, like, we've done something here, like this is our first ever short film. We really wanted to mark it as an occasion, like this has happened, we've done this, and we're proud of the work that we did. And yeah, essentially release it however you want. If you want to enter it into competitions, you absolutely can, and go ahead and do that. You have to do your own research for that, to what you would want to enter it in, what it could be eligible for. And yeah, essentially you'll have your short film and you can do as you please with it. So that is pretty much the end of this video on how to make a short film in the UK. And although this video is pretty long, I think, I haven't edited it yet, but I think it will be pretty long, there's so much more I could say. Even talking through all the points that I was talking through, I was thinking to myself, there is so much more for me to say, and I could go so much more in depth into all of these things. So I might do that one day, maybe, because I feel like I could really go in depth. But for now, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this was informative. Even though long video, it still is kind of the bare bones, because it was a crash course. I was giving you a crash course in kind of the idea from conception to its released. So like that's a lot of work. But yes, hopefully it was helpful. And for the forms that I mentioned, so the casting call, the shooting schedule, the risk assessment, for things like that I think can seem quite daunting and scary, and like, oh, how do I make one of those? In the description down below there will be examples of those that are templates essentially that you can download, and hopefully those will help you so much. So it will be a template laid out and you can add in your own info. So hopefully that will be really helpful, because I know when I studied my masters, that's exactly what they did for us. They gave us templates, and I found that extremely helpful, and it's a very good way to learn exactly what you need to do. So once you use a template a few times, you should then be able to make it on your own. So yes, thank you so much for watching. I really hope this video was informative, and please give my short film a watch if you would like to. As I've said, it was in the description below. I love it so much. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and just, yeah, loved creating it, and I can't wait to make our next one. I'm not sure when that will be, but I cannot wait. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.